All right.
What is your favorite hardcore band working today besides yours?
What's that?
What's your favorite new hardcore band?
Like I said, I love
Winter Wolf.
I love End It. Winter
Yeah,
Wolf.
Winter
was
Wolf.
great, yeah.
Off the hook, man.
End It.
Off the hook.
Baltimore.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, there's since the pandemic,
I'm a big
Fire
fan.
is Murder.
I'm
Kicks
a big
ass.
fan of Billy Club Sandwich, but they're not.
Yeah, they're like 20 years ago.
That's true, but they're
Yeah,
new.
but they're cool.
They're new to
cool.
me.
They're my guys. They're my guys.
Our friends.
What do you know? What's your favorite new hardcore band that you like?
All the whole New York, the whole Long Island hardcore scene is sick right now. The fucking, you know.
What that band Come Hammer?
I never
Haven't heard them yet.
Okay.
It's too many bands.
Their
I
name
love-
sounds
you know,
like
I
I
like
want to
to-
punch them.
I like that band
Okay.
Candy
Do
also.
you know who is Ian Ellis?
You know.
Ian,
Yeah,
no, who's that?
that's you.
That's a comic from Chicago.
What about him?
I do not know them.
Just asking if you knew who he was.
No, I don't.
Okay, are you guys down with Wu-Tang Clan?
We're down with the
Fuck
Wu-Tang
yeah.
Clan.
Hey, you want to hear?
Ain't nothing
I don't
to
know.
fuck with.
Should I say this?
Oh yeah, Wu-Tang forever.
Okay.
Fuck yeah.
In 1994, I used to hang out with these Liberian dudes in
Nice.
Staten Island. And, I used to go hang out with Wu-Tang Clan in the parking lot of the abandoned shopping center in their video. We used to
Holy
smoke weed.
cow.
It was cool.
Nice.
That was
That's lit,
94.
man.
And I was the only dude. I pulled up, and one of them was like, "Yo, what's with the white boy in the car?" Because I was in the back seat.
Who was
And I
with
was
me
hanging
when
out.
they went to when they went to what was the big record shop down at the Tower when they showed up at Tower?
Wow,
I was there. They went to Tower Records. It was fucking mad.
Yeah, it was.
that
I know.
sounds crazy.
Yeah,
It was
white girls
pretty,
taking
it was
off
off
their
the
tops.
chain, man. People were going bananas.
Yeah,
Okay, what
like
band?
90.
I like bananas too.
What band or artist influenced you the
He likes
most?
bananas too.
I like-
what was
I like
what was the
Troll
band or
Bands.
artist that influenced you the most of
Who?
all the music
Say
you
that
listened
fucking
to?
question.
A lot of them. A lot of bands.
Who?
What band?
Friday night, what you gonna do? Say it, yo. Grab a phone, grab a beer, it's time for Jimmy's show. Jimmy's young boy. You might be Jimmy, you might some yeah. It's time for the TV show. He don't say much, but you never know what you might see, what you might hear. There's only one singer to remind him.
What is your first name?
Jasmine.
What is yours?
My name is Jerome.
Okay. What is your favorite hardcore band?
Oh my God, I can only pick one.
Well, New York and not. It's a big two. New York and not.
My favorite.
Same question.
His band, Winter Wolf.
What?
Easy. Winter Wolf. Easy.
Okay. All time?
Yes.
Rebel Matic.
Nice. Are there any old bands like Black Flag in the mix?
The thing is, I just came into the hardcore scene like 5 years. I grew up a gospel kid.
Maybe you should take a look back.
But you know what? I would say that I do love the Bad Brains.
Black Flag was the most important hardcore band ever.
I got to
They
study Black
spread
Flag.
the
I heard
gospel. They are why there is English hardcore. Yeah, they are. They played England, then hardcore too. Okay, what do you think of the economy?
The economy sucks. Horrible.
What about you, Sam?
the drizzling, you know what? Yeah.
All right. What did you think when the Mighty Boss Songs broke up?
I was so young when they broke up. I only heard one song by them.
Oh, man. Already the impression I get, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That's it.
Everybody hears that. Go Get Devil's Night Out and More Noise and Other Disturbances. That's the raw stuff from the first 2 albums.
Okay.
How did you feel when they broke up?
When who broke up?
The Mighty Boss Songs.
In all honesty, I don't know. I kind of like come to hardcore shows here or there, so I do not have an opinion.
They're like mostly ska, like ska and ska realm.
Who do you think is the funniest person ever?
Richard Pryor.
All right, I'm right there with you. Mel Brooks too. That's my opinion. Who do you think is the funniest person ever?
I would have to say the person from earlier from the Eris, I think Nick. He's hilarious. He's just like
Nick, that guy right
Yeah.
there from the
I
era.
mean,
Yeah.
A person that's known. Say that.
Huh?
I mean, a person we all might know.
Gary, somebody like that. Chris
All right, let me think. I think Chris Rock is pretty funny, but I would have to go with George Carlin. George
Good
Carlin.
answer.
Good
I
one.
like
George.
That's a good one.
it. What do you think of the Wu-Tang Clan?
Oh my God, one of the top 5 greatest rap duos, not even duos, rap groups of all time.
And the first brand and the phenomenon.
Mariners Harbor represent. I'm from Staten Island. Y'all can roast me.
I guess you love them too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think of the first, current, and last president? Not giving my opinion on this question.
It's like a car.
All right, before I bring on my guests, all right, I'll give them an introduction. They scored big on baseball's greatest rivalry, selling Yankees-Sox up the fun and indie label of great Boston hardcore, Bridge 9 Records. My guest is Chris Wrenn. He doesn't hate the Yankees. He's just a great businessman. Here he is. You like the intro?
Hey, what's up, Kenny? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Definitely don't hate the Yankees, right?
Yeah, it's
Just
I-
business.
I don't like them, but it was more business than than personal.
Because every day, I mean, if I lived in Boston and I was sober most of the time, and I heard they say Yankees suck, there's a whole lot of money to be made in that.
Yeah,
I think everybody would do that.
yeah.
You still manufacture killing and shilling.
The killing was chilling. No,
Yeah.
that was one of our best selling T-shirts of 2004. So I mean, we're talking 22 years ago.
You took
Kurt
it-
Schilling is
you
not.
can't even get it. You can't get it even on the website. No.
No, that shirt has been retired. Unfortunately, I mean, Kurt Schilling was a hero amongst the Red Sox, in 2004, but he's
Those that
fallen.
weren't around back in
He's
those
fallen
days.
from grace.
The famous T-shirt being worn right there by not only no one other than Ben Affleck. Well, you can see it right about, well, right there. Yeah, he wore it, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
That a famous person is wearing your shirt, or was.
Yeah.
He also wore "Believe in Boston," a slogan that you had catchphrased.
Yeah. He also wore a Slapshot T-shirt. I want to say I saw a photo of him in a Have Heart shirt too. So it's kind of blends between both brands, which has been very cool.
That's true. Yeah. Well, I like the band Slapshot. I haven't seen a lot of Boston hardcore. Not a lot of it plays over here. I mean, it does here and there, right? I saw Gangrene.
Nice.
When the Grand Victory was still around. Some clubs don't exist anymore.
That's right.
And
That's right. I know Slapshot is playing New York soon. They're playing
the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I am going to try and attend the Super Bowl.
Nice.
I may not get tickets ahead of time, but what's so great about that show is you show up hours ahead of time. Tickets at the door.
Yeah.
You just got to be there super early. They're doing it at 4, so I'll probably be there around 2 or something.
Nice.
I'll have to see. Or I might be able to obtain tickets. I don't know. Have to see. All right. Let's get to some actual questions I came up with. Okay, what section of Boston is Fenway Park in?
So it's in the Fenway.
Okay, I did not know that was an area of,
Yeah. It's the neighborhood is called the Fenway.
because
Fenway.
there's so many different classified neighborhoods, you don't know which one it's in. All right, so the Fenway.
Yeah.
All right. What would that be? What would that be near? Is that near like I'm trying to think.
So it's near like the Back Bay, which is where like Newberry Street, that shopping street is, and like the Prudential Mall, like the Prudential Center. That's the,
Okay.
the big building that kind of looks like a robot.
Is
So-
it near like Southie or anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's not next to it, but it's, probably 10 minutes away.
Okay. All right. All right. Before we move on and really dive into the book, right? What was playing in your house growing up? What was Mr. and Mrs. Wrenn into?
Oh, Wrenn. It's Wrenn, like the
Wrenn.
bird. Yeah.
Okay, Wrenn, sorry.
Yeah. No worries.
What was the Wrenn house playing music-wise that you grew up listening to?
So I remember a lot of Beach Boys, Johnny Cash.
There wasn't quite Johnny Cash in my house, but definitely the Beach Boys were playing quite often.
For sure. Yeah. A lot of 50s, 50s stuff. So,
Anything else?
Nothing really jumps out, but I remember a lot of Beach Boys.
Snug, I don't know if I'll be able to get a big time guest for Super Bowl, but coming this October, I have confirmed, well, not confirmed, but they said they would do it, and I'm in contact with the management. Shane Spencer and Chuck Nelblock on separate interviews will be in the house in October.
Very nice.
I figured October because they're October caliber players. They won championships, 3 of them each with the Yankees when they went for 3 in a row. When you were starting Bridge 9 and
Yep.
they had the whole Joe Torre thing.
Hey, the 90s were a good time for the Yankees. But what was the last time they won?
Not so much 09.
Yeah.
Yeah. True, the Red Sox have won 3 times in that time period.
2, right? 13 and 18. But 07 was close, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they fixed the pitching, as you can see this year.
Yeah, and we just lost Alex Cora.
What?
We just lost Alex Cora. They fired him.
Oh, wow.
Which is, Red Sox, manager. So that's rough.
Well,
Like that guy.
Red Sox can't always have a great year.
Yeah. Hey, we had about 85 bad ones. Or not bad ones.
But you know why the curse happened, right?
What's that?
You know the history of why the curse happened, right?
Yes.
Since they broke it and all that. The curse happened because it's not like he got traded for another player. Babe Ruth got traded for opera tickets.
Yeah.
Kind of seems like an insult.
Well, it's tough, and I wonder if we're kind of in a similar situation where you have ownership that has multiple financial, focuses, right? So like it's not just somebody that's owning a baseball team, they're owning other things. And sometimes when those other things get their attention, the product on the field suffers.
That's true. And the Red Sox were the first team to ever win a championship.
Yeah, 1903.
Yeah. And then, well, a trade past 1918 of a certain Sultan player, right, would be forever cursed for 80-something years. But, at least it wasn't forever. What you needed was the guy you put on the shirt with the gun. I mean, who could you say ever beat the Yankees and not just like, well, you can't be like, well, they hired one of the Reds. The Big Red Machine would beat the Yankees or anybody that came up. I mean, gave them a battle, toe-to-toe, 7 games, won. Right? Not a lot of people. And they could have easily grabbed the big unit, but Yankees already did, so the unit was already working for the other side.
True.
Right, so there's only one person left. Did you know that before hiring him, the Schilling took him a meeting with the Yankees? Did you know that?
Oh, I'm sure he did. But he also had beaten the Yankees in what year? 01?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they knew that he had some experience.
That's true. Did you know that Babe Ruth ended his career with the Boston Braves?
Yeah. He had
That's
quite a career.
Yes, it's all true.
It's like Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay to finish off his career.
Okay, I would say that I loved the documentary you guys put out on Bridge 9. The kids will have their say about Boston hardcore. Directed by Drew Stone. Great documentary.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What other documentaries have you put out? And I have a question. Why was Dickie Barrett only in the beginning of that? Or is that
What, the one that Drew did?
Yeah.
No idea. You'd have to ask Drew.
Yeah.
But
I mean, even they interviewed people that used to be in one of his bands and just doing the intro. Well, ask him.
Yeah.
Have you done other documentaries with the label about punk and other things?
We did our first one was with 10 Yard Fight, Boston band. We did like an hour-long documentary that was produced by John LaCroix and Anthony from 10 Yard Fight, the members.
Was that about like their last show?
It was about their last show, but it also had footage from over the years, footage from like their like early years. So I mean, they were only a band at the time for 4 years, but they put together that video and it was awesome. I mean, at the time, it was one of like the nicest.
Right. Wasn't 10 Yard Fight one of the first bands you ever signed when you were just doing it out of your college bedroom?
I actually never officially signed them. They were friends. They were already on Equal Vision Records, which was a much bigger label than Bridge 9 at the time.
Right.
So we helped basically do their final video documentary. So I released the doc.
Okay. Well, at least you had that on the label to forever remember the final performance.
Yeah.
If they weren't signed to your label, at least you had that.
Yeah, no, it was cool to have the opportunity to do something with them.
Right. Okay, now that the whole thing is over and the Yankees kind of suck, would you ever switch it up and go Believe in New York?
No.
No? Wouldn't sell anything?
No.
No.
Although they're selling Yankees merch in the Fenway gift shops, which I think's a little crazy.
That's crazy.
I don't know. Maybe they just had, because the Yankees were just here last week, so maybe they just had stuff for that homestand. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I heard they got the broom out.
They did.
Yeah, that's why I heard. I've watched a lot of those games. I couldn't watch Saturday. I mean, I had, the band Go-Go Bordello?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a record release party. And then 40 years since In Your Face Fishbone. So
nice.
I had all that to attend to. I'm still wearing the same plaid shirt.
Nice.
Kind of a Bostonian plaid. I'd say so. All right. Has any other famous people besides Ben Affleck worn your gear?
Yeah, we had a funny thing with Conan O'Brien back during the pandemic. I sent him a care package of Boston t-shirts, and one of them had this distinctive bridge that's called the Zakim Bridge, but it has like this kind of, like a tower in the center with, the support wires coming down. And he moved out of Boston. He was a Cambridge, like, kind of Boston guy, and he moved out, and maybe not Cambridge, but he was Brookline, I think, Boston. He moved out of the city, and I think in the 80s, and had never seen the bridge because the bridge was built after he moved out. So he ended up wearing the shirt during one of his monologues and made fun of it. Said it was phallic. It was funny. So yeah, he described a shirt that we should send him. So we actually made that shirt and sent it to him the next day, and he ended up wearing that shirt on his second monologue. So that was pretty cool.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to say that some of your stuff that I think is still available, it's funny, like Gita drinks wine coolers.
Yeah. So that was one of our best selling shirts. And, like,
is that still available? I might.
No. Yeah. A lot of that stuff got retired in the mid 2000s, but
hold on. What about A-Rod is an a-hole?
That's retired. Yeah.
That shouldn't be retired. You should bring it back. I would
Yeah, that's evergreen. People will buy that year round.
Why do you retire stuff? So great ideas and true slogans like that.
It's true. I mean, the A-Rod is an a-hole shirt was like,
I never liked it, and I'm like, why is this guy playing for the Yankees?
Yankees fans didn't like him too.
We already have the Yankee killer. We signed a big unit. One is enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, have you ever signed any ska core and metalcore bands besides Classic Front? Because I know you reissued some of their stuff.
Yeah, but I wouldn't consider them metalcore or ska core.
They dipped in a little bit of metal.
For sure. I mean, for sure. But
I would consider them at certain points metalcore, like Cause for Alarm, and they've done some recent records that have the metal grooves on it.
Yeah.
So I would consider it depends on what part of the set and what album. I would consider them in that world, if not full on.
Yeah. I mean, we've definitely worked with bands that have like metal influences. But I wouldn't necessarily call them like metalcore bands. At least not what I mean, there's a lot of metalcore bands out there that I feel like their sound is a little bit more metal.
That's true. But it goes back and forth with them. I interviewed Gallo lately, Mike. That's my last interview. Not on both networks because he doesn't really have much to do with sports.
Yeah.
He's a member of that band. He said that it kind of goes back and forth. Sometimes you want to bring it back. Right.
What, bring the metal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things like that go in and out. That's kind of what you pointed out, that sometimes especially when like the guy from Hatebreed.
Yeah.
With them. So then you're probably going to bring that sound back. It's the guy from Hatebreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he produced the Another Voice record for Agnostic Front.
Yeah.
I know that. Yeah.
Yeah. I hear that you guys do art shows.
Yeah, so our record store has like a pretty large warehouse that we've been able to, have bands play here. We've been able to do like art shows, art markets, like we've had vegan food fairs. We had like a play that somebody produced and put on in our warehouse like over the course of 3 days. So like we've been trying to mix it up and make it more of a community space.
Well, I do art.
Nice. What is your medium? What do you focus on?
I'd say pen and ink.
Cool.
I'd say it's abstract surreal. Maybe I can send you some stuff and you might want to put it in one of your art shows.
Cool. We'll check it out.
Do you ever have those in New York?
Do I ever do art shows in New York?
Yeah.
No. I mean, I just do stuff in our space here north of Boston, but Larry, who helps out here and helps arrange the art shows that we have here, also does a lot of stuff with Drew Stone in New York. Every month they do those like the free article shows. So
They have art shows every month.
no, I think they just do like bands and live music, but
Yeah. I know what Larry you're talking about.
Yeah.
Larry Kelly.
Yeah, Larry.
That would be the only Larry.
Larry's the best. No other Larry's matter.
He's the door guy like every show.
Nice.
Well, if you like something, I don't travel for one thing. If you're like, we like that one thing, I'll be like, if you like 2 or 3 things and you're like, yeah, we're going to put like 3 things in a show, I'll get on a train. I'll go to Matt's.
Yeah.
But one thing, that's not really a travel thing. What if one thing doesn't sell? Then I spent like $100 to go all the way to Matt's.
Yeah.
Because it costs. So it's. Yeah, I've seen you do posts and always tagging Larry. So I figured that Larry has an integral thing, and Larry was at your event when you played in New York, and I guess Larry is involved in Bridge 9, right?
Yeah, so Larry I refer to him as my guardian angel. He's a friend. He's somebody that is a supporter of what we do here. And he helps, work on our shop when we need people to help cover, certain shifts, but he's here organizing events. Anytime we have live music, he's like the go-to guy. Right. So he's, in a lot of ways, if not for Larry, a lot of the cool stuff that we've been doing wouldn't be possible, because you need people to help. You need people to help kind of carry the responsibility, and he steps up to the plate.
So Snug the Cat, one of the best chatters of the network, right, says that A-Rod's mom didn't like him.
No. Yeah, he wasn't. He didn't seem. I didn't know the guy personally. He never came across as like a likable person. But
true. Okay, what brand is more successful, you or your daughters? Because I heard that your daughter has a brand.
Yeah, so for viewers that are not
familiar,
familiar,
I watch when you're on other podcasts and you mention it on one of the podcasts.
So we're here talking about Bridge 9, my record label, but there's also Sully's brand, which is like my Boston kind of centric clothing brand.
Yeah.
And that started by
then one Halloween you made a brand for your daughter.
Yeah. So basically, just so anyone that's watching this will have context, when Sully started, we were selling stuff out on the street next to Fenway Park, on the sidewalk, out of a backpack, and took the money that we made doing that and invested it in putting out albums for Bridge 9 and helped grow the Bridge 9 label. So my daughter has kind of a similar story. When she was 6 years old, she would draw every morning. We'd go to the coffee shop and she would sit there and draw. And she drew. She's growing up in Salem, Massachusetts. It's like the Halloween kind of. There's a lot of like kind of spooky tourism, I guess. So she drew a skull, a ghost, and a pumpkin as a 6-year-old.
I don't know why weren't there the Salem witch trials.
Yeah, so there's the witch trials is what it brings a lot of like historical tourism because of that, right? It's such a but
they burned women they thought were witches or accused of witness at the stake.
So
might have been witches or may not have been.
Yeah. So none of them. They were just women, and a few men. It was. They weren't burned to the stake here in the United States. I think that happened a lot in Europe, but in here they were hung, and in the gallows. So there's a lot because of that kind of morbid kind of curiosity and tourism. Other things have come to Salem that are in that vein. So there's a lot of, there's like a Frankenstein that solicits, tips. There's like a lot of like kind of just, it's basically Halloween tourism that happens year round. It gets really crazy. Yeah, no, and I think this person gets a lot of tips. I think they do well, but like, because of that, if you're into spooky stuff, not specifically the witch trials, people flocked to Salem. So Georgia wanted to make a T-shirt with her drawings because I would set up a booth and sell the Boston centric stuff on the sidewalk. And so we set up a lemonade stand, basically repurposed her lemonade stand and put her one T-shirt design on it. And I think that Halloween, I think she was 7, sold out of everything, just like cleaned up. So we continued to evolve that brand. We just added more things.
How many years has she had the brand? How old is your
So
daughter?
she was 6 when she was started. She's 14 now, so about 8 years. And then last year we opened a store just based on her brand in downtown Salem. So she has
out of high school and she has her own store.
Yeah, she's a
brand. She doesn't have to go to college. She'll just work the brand.
She could.
Because people want to get higher education, work a job while they go to school. That's her prerogative. That's what she wants to do. Or she could just go to her store and go to work.
True. Yeah. Well, so our thought was, let's see if we can use the sales of her products, like her enamel pins and T-shirts. And now she has like 100 different things, like stuffed plush dolls and, magnets and all sorts of souvenirs. And so the thought was, let's see if we can take the money that she's earning doing that and put it into a college fund. So we've been using the profits from her brand and her store to fund her college fund. And I don't know what her plan is going to be. She's still 3 years
It could be trade school. It could be anything.
100%.
That furthers the education or whatever.
We call it a college fund, but it's really whatever the next stage of her life's going to be. So, whether that is trade school or fashion school or, a fine arts degree, or if it's, investing in herself, it's ultimately, we wanted to take, things that she made when she was younger and use it to help kind of give her a good push as she gets older.
Right. Okay. I know you went on a lot of tours. I read what tour with which band was the most fun? Well, you went touring with them, they got tour, and you're like, I got to go along for the ride because it may not be like this forever.
Yeah. So I wish that I was able to tour more with bands that I worked with. Being the person that was responsible for everything on the label side, it was hard to step away.
Yeah.
But I would, like, once a year, I would go with a band if they were going someplace cool, whether American Nightmare, I went with them for their first European tour. And that was insane. It was 3 weeks all over Europe. It was before the Euro. Yeah, it was before the Euro was instituted. So I was doing merch for them, and every country had a different, exchange rate, and trying to learn that was nuts. But thankfully one of the bands that was supporting it was helpful. But yeah, just trying to go and do as much kind of tourist stuff while you're on the road.
And resulting from that kind of tour, how many European bands ultimately in the last 20 plus years did you end up signing?
We probably put out records for 5 or 6. And all of them were, I think, people that I met when I was on tour. They weren't necessarily demos or things that were sent to me. It was like, hey, I'd meet these people, I'd hang out with them, we'd spend time, getting to know each other, and then I would end up putting on a record for them.
Right, like I'm putting together a band.
Nice.
I'm not going to be a singer or anything. I'm more of a collaborator than anything. It's that guy that I interviewed. You saw Jerome in the interview, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he wants to put together gospel and put strings on stuff like hardcore.
Okay.
Yeah, I already know a drummer that plays at a local church I go to.
Nice.
He obviously could probably travel all the way in the city to make it happen, because to go to church, I'm not saying where I am, I'm in the hills. He travels all the way from Albany.
Wow.
So he's used to traveling for hours. So I figured throw New York City in, and that's probably close to 5 hours travel for him.
Wow.
Yeah, well, Albany is quite far. I wasn't, if I I don't think I'd be suggesting this if I hung out in his area a lot because Albany punks aren't very cool.
No.
That's their reputation. They're known for not being cool.
So I can tell you, in the 90s, I went to college in Vermont, and Albany was about an hour and 10 minutes away from where I was living. So it was one of the closer places to go for shows. So from like 94 to probably 98, I would go to Albany, pretty regularly for shows. And it was a cool scene there. I remember I used to go to the QE2, and there was one other, what's that?
Is that club?
Yeah, the club, the QE2 was a little smaller club, and then there was.
Is that like the Albany CBGBs?
Kinda, yeah. I would say so. Kinda. Had a great Indian restaurant like 3 doors down, so that was cool.
I've never been that much into Indian, but I'm not big into spicy. It's nothing against Indian people.
I'm not a big spice person either, but I love Indian food.
Okay.
There's an Indian restaurant like three or 4 doors down, like a block up from us, here at our store, and it's like you can smell the Indian food all day. Like it just kind of wafts down the street.
I'm a big fan of curry.
Yeah,
it's spicy, but
yeah, it smells great, and
have a beer, some milk, get through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I wish New York adapted the whole straight edge thing, but New York punks and DC punks didn't get along.
Yeah.
So the Angel Dust crowd isn't really going to go along with that.
Yes,
that was New York. New Yorkers, they like their beer, they like their weed, they like their Angel Dust.
Yeah.
That's New York punks down to a T, pretty much. Right.
Yeah.
Especially a lot of them would wear ski masks and get crowbars and rob the Angel Dust dealer.
Yeah.
Right. Then he'd be dancing to the band, probably wearing different outfits, no ski masks, that just robbed him 2 hours earlier.
Yeah.
Well,
it's tough business to be in.
When you're in the most dangerous city in America at the time, in the 80s and all that, that's a typical thing that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. What project did you release featuring the Dropkick Murphys? I read that you worked with them.
Yeah, we did.
I'm a huge fan,
I want to say in 2011, they had released a Live at Fenway Park album.
All right, yeah.
And they had some, because they had performed there and it was recorded. And they had some songs that didn't make that album. So I was able to take 2 of the songs and we did like a little 7-inch picture disc. Pretty limited, just 1,000 of them made. But it was cool because obviously the Dropkick Murphys are a Boston institution, so it was cool to do something with them.
They still play New York all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else we got?
Okay, I'm looking.
When we did that Dropkick Murphys 7-inch, we also did a collab with Sully's brand. So we designed 2 T-shirts for the Dropkicks that were exclusive to Sully's, and had them come out at the same time. So it was cool to work with them from kind of both sides.
Are those still available?
No, those were like one-time deal back in 2011, so they're long gone.
Okay.
So.
Okay, what other, since I know you made a deal to release some stuff by Nuts in Front, what other New York hardcore bands did you sign?
It's funny that the story about how we raised money to help fund Bridge 9 by selling Yankees Suck merch and things that kind of riffed on the rivalry with the Yankees. I mean, the great irony is that a lot of that money went into New York bands. So, I mean, we've had the very good fortune to work, obviously, with Agnostic Front for many, many years now. We started working with them in 2007, so almost 20 years. Mostly doing singles. They've always been on much bigger, kind of more metal European labels. So like we'll do a single for them, like a 7-inch before their new album will come out, or we've had the great honor to reissue some of their early records, whether it was United Blood, Victim in Pain. We've reissued twice.
Live at CBGB's.
Live at CBGB was super
I have
cool.
that reissue, so
Yeah. So
I think I get the Victim in Pain and United Blood, all good stuff.
Yeah, and we've reissued both of those twice. We did United Blood back in 2000. What was it? 2009, and then we did like a special 40th anniversary version a couple of years ago that was expanded into a 12-inch. We also reissued Project X when we did the Schism fanzine book. We did Underdog, which was a huge honor. I mean, that was one of my favorite hardcore bands even before I started Bridge 9. So like to be able to work with them has been super cool. You mentioned Mike Gallo. We did a record with his band On the Rise before
another band.
Yeah. Dude, check it out. He had a cool band called On the Rise before he started working with Agnostic Front. They were great.
Yeah, he didn't. I don't think he mentioned them in my interview. I asked him what other bands he was in.
I mean, that was a long time ago.
I never him mentioned them.
That was a long time ago. I mean, this is 2003, I think.
Wow.
And, of course, we've also worked with other New York bands, maybe not necessarily New York City bands, but like Crime and Stereo, or Polar Bear Club is more upstate.
I don't know.
Yeah, Antidote. We did a reissue.
Everybody knows Antidote.
Yeah, the original 7-inch. So that was cool.
Drew was in the second singer.
Yeah.
In Antidote history.
Yeah, but they had a good resurgence because of all his hard work.
That's true. Yeah. Okay, who do you think is the funniest person ever?
Who do I think is the funniest person ever?
Yeah, I try to ask everybody this question.
Man, I don't know, but I do have a funny story that includes my daughter. So Adam Sandler is a funny guy. His movie. So he did a movie called Hubie Halloween, which
not his best.
Not his best.
He's had better work. I mean,
what's that?
Lately, I've liked Uncut Gems. Him.
That was definitely
him as a jeweler type scumbag guy.
Yeah.
It maybe have like one or two funny things in it, and then the rest not funny at all.
No. That was an edge of the seat movie. I mean, he has certainly more. He has more depth as an actor than I think most people realize. But
okay, but you're saying Hubie Halloween, right?
Yeah. So Hubie Halloween, it was set in Salem, where my daughter has grown up, and she was an extra in that movie.
Wow.
So there's a
even if that movie isn't very good.
Yeah. So we have like our own personal connection to it. So like I love the movie just because of her involvement and what we did, like, going to the set and like, having her like get dressed up. So, I mean, growing up in Salem, you have more opportunities to do Halloween stuff, right? I mean, it's kind of Halloween, like I said, Halloween City year round, but October, it's like a theme park the whole month. I mean, and they say there's actually t-shirts that say Salem is not a theme park. Because people come thinking like, hey, this is like a whole staged thing, but it's not. It's like a normal working town with people that live there, but it also has like all this kind of like Halloween themed stuff that happens.
Yeah.
but they have multiple opportunities for kids to go, like trick or treating, right? Like, so, I have a bunch of nieces that live in upstate New York. They go trick or treating once on October 31st, but my daughter gets to go on like Mayor's Night Out, and then they have like
Wow.
this whole parade where they like they have a kickoff to Halloween season parade in Salem. So all this cool stuff.
It's a whole nother level of Halloween.
Yeah. But in 2019, when they filmed Hubie Halloween, Georgia, like my daughter, got to go. They had like a scene where kids were trick or treating. So she had a costume that they gave her, and she had. I watched from like down the street basically. I like one of the neighbors. It was like on a normal like neighborhood street. So like I like chatted with one of the neighbors that had a porch, and I like went up and sat on their porch and watched.
I hope so. I'm just responding to. He's asking me, will the show come back every week? That's up to the co-hosts, which neither people can make it here.
Yeah. Well, just to wrap the story up, she got a chance to meet Adam Sandler. I haven't met Adam Sandler, but she got a chance to meet him and shake his hand.
Did you get to meet him? But
I didn't get a chance to. But her and her movie family, she had like movie parents and like a movie sibling, and they were walking.
It's like when my dad was in a choral group that got to do Not the Messiah. I didn't get to meet Eric Idle. My father happened to be changing for the rehearsal right at the same time that Mr. Monty Python himself was in the dressing room changing. Right, so he got to have his moment with Eric Idle.
Incredible.
So I got to enjoy him sharing that moment with me.
Yeah.
It's hard to meet these people, right?
Yeah.
They're on much higher levels than we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the guy's a Python.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to meet. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, let's see. All right, what was your favorite project to work on? Bridge 9 side, like somebody like you found a band or a bigger band came to you. What was it?
Yeah. So one of the really cool things about doing a label is finding a band that you think like this band is awesome and getting the opportunity to like help them realize their potential. Right. So like you might have a band that's just a cool local band, but by working with them and helping kind of elevate them, now all of a sudden they're touring in Europe or they're going to Japan. And, now instead of playing in front of 30 people in their hometown, now they're playing in front of 500 people on the other side of the world. So like I've been very fortunate to work with a band that was unknown and help them grow. But then I've also been able to work with bands that were my heroes and legends to me, whether it's Agnostic Front or, H2O or Slapshot, like bands that like, I was a fan of before I started the label and then was able to work with them and continue to help them.
What's your absolute favorite project? If you had to just pick one or two, let's just say two. Two that you. It wouldn't matter if it was an old band that came to you or a brand new band that you discovered in the scene.
It might have been doing the Nothing to Prove album for H2O. That was one of my favorites because, they were. I mean,
seen H2O. Always wanted to. Oftentimes they don't play in New York that much.
Yeah. They're I mean, I was a fan of H2O. Before I started Bridge 9, I mean, they started, I mean, it was right around the same time, like they started and we started, but like before the label was known by anybody, I was a fan of them. So to, go from like 1995, making a mixtape for my girlfriend in college with a bunch of H2O songs to like being their label, like, what is that? Like 8 years later, or no, 12 years later. Like it was definitely very cool to be able to do that.
Yeah. right. Let's see. Oh, since you heard me in the tape, since you're in Boston, this might have affected your world a lot more than any of us. What are your thoughts when the Mighty Mighty Boston decided to hang it up for good?
It's surprised. I mean, I know, like, I've seen so many bands.
We were all kind of shocked, but we all handle it differently.
Yeah, I mean, Mighty Mighty Bosstones were an institution, much like the Dropkick Murphys or
any other band.
Yeah, I mean, there's you reach like a certain level, and you can just do things on your own terms. And I'm surprised that they didn't keep doing those Christmas throwdowns that they'd have. But I mean, people grow and go in different directions, and I think that's probably what happened. But my guess is, just like any band, I mean, pretty much every band comes back at some point. So
sure. You never know. One day, Joe Biddleman, the bass Philman, and Dickie might get offered that like everybody else before them, they can't turn down years from now.
Yeah,
you don't know, that might happen one day.
Yeah. Well, and you hope it's not just for the money. You hope that you obviously they probably need to be incentivized, but
right. When I had a minute before at a benefit, when I interviewed Joe from the Pie Tasters, he said, and a few other people that were standing around in that band, he said, breaks my heart every day. I message them all the time to try and get the two of them together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but if that's kind of the theme for a lot of bands. You've got probably two strong personalities or two integral people to a band that just are not on the same page anymore, and it's a shame.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the time, I heard the report was Richard Barrett didn't want to wear a mask.
Oh,
that's just the way it is, right?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, politics and things that are tied to politics.
All right. On this label, great indie label, have you ever signed an indie rock band? Has this ever happened?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call any bands that we've worked with specifically indie rock, but I mean, we've worked with bands that were more
indie rock was
like more rock than punk,
right.
And whether that
was a huge influence in the world of hardcore.
Yeah, I mean,
influenced it, so it kind of pulls from that world. Some bands like Nirvana crossed over to indie rock, right? And some didn't. Like Dinosaur Jr. eventually became an indie rock band when they stopped being a hardcore one.
Yeah,
like Noisy.
Yeah,
band, but still.
One band that we worked with for a bunch of records was this band Lemuria. Great band. More definitely more rock than punk, but these are people that came from the hardcore and punk scene and grew up as punks that just kind of their sound is just a little different than what we have done as a label. I mean, Bridge 9 is known for heavier stuff, but I just love that band, so it didn't matter. But they, in terms of being as people, as musicians, they got it. We were on the same page there.
Okay. All right. I'll move on to, when I blushed here, I forgot to ask him this part. All right. Everybody's questions, the last questions, right? All right. I'll do it in a different order than last time. Okay. When you were in high school, were you part of a clique, or were you like, and what clique was it if you were part of one?
Talk about the Mighty Mighty Bosstones, like a band or like a movie like Clueless, where that kind of that kind of a tropey kind of movie scene where they're walking into a high school and they're like, "Oh, this is the punks. These are the skaters. These are the nerds. These are the band, kids." I've seen a few movies that have that kind of same thing. And I was definitely in like the skateboarder, punk rock kid crowd.
Okay.
But all my friends skated, were into hardcore and punk bands, metal bands.
I would say I was also kind of in that book, but I would say we were freaks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sure. At the
Not
time,
everybody I hung out with was into that skater thing, or I wasn't really a skater, but hanging out with that and the whole punk rock thing. Some of them. No, our thing was just party with us, and if you like classic rock, you're almost in.
Yeah.
There were plenty of people that like stuff like metal and hardcore.
Yeah.
There were plenty of people that didn't like any of that at all.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, in a high school, you just find people that are as close to you as so. Not everything's going to line up, but you look for the most connections.
Okay. All right. What is your all-time favorite car?
All-time favorite car?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I've never been a car guy,
It's not for everyone. I've never really been a car guy either, being learning disabled. I don't think I ever had the motor skills, so I never learned.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in New York State, especially tri-state area. Oftentimes you don't need a car.
True. I did see
it's not like I'm in California. California, you kind of need a car.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can say I did see a Mercedes today that I thought was really cool. It's one of those like two-door 70s kind of Mercedes that have like the hubcaps, like with the Mercedes logo that match the color of the car.
Old school is always cool.
Yeah.
Excuse me. All right. Okay. If you could do it all again, what would you do different?
I think that I would ask for more help. I pride myself on being very, very DIY, but one of the things that I mentioned at the end of my book is that DIY gets your foot in the door. You have to be the one to kind of like start the thing, but you really need help. You need people to like lift up whatever it is you think, needs to happen. And I've had some amazing help. We mentioned, Larry Kelly. He's been an amazing person to
been instrumental in all this.
Absolutely. But and throughout the years, there have been people that have come into my life that have helped open doors, create new opportunities in a way that has helped. We've been a label now 31 years, so like, that's no small feat to be able to last that long. And in great part, it's because of people that I've been able to collaborate with. But I think I would still ask for more help and not just try and juggle all the things myself. Because that's my biggest drawback is I try to do all the things and I know I can't.
Okay. What was your first celebrity crush?
Cindy Crawford.
Brooke Shields.
Nice.
Back in the day, 80s.
Yeah.
They're probably both still hot now. These models. They
Yeah.
can look at themselves and they, if not stay like as hot as you remember, they try and stay good looking. Let's just call it that.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect, right? How old how old are these females now? Probably 60 years old.
Yeah, we all get older,
Yeah. Okay. Who was your favorite actor and actress ever?
I don't know. And it's funny because one of my favorite jobs was working in a video store. early 90s, so I felt like it was a kind of a classic time to work in like
That's when everybody's working in a video store. Quentin Tarantino, you, Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, they might have been a little earlier than I was, but
that's true.
I worked at one from like 92 to 94, maybe.
Yeah.
95.
Okay. What was your first concert?
So my first concert was the Clash of the Titans tour in 1991. It was Slayer, Megadeth, Anthrax, and Alice in Chains.
Wow.
Which was I was 15 years old. All four of my favorite bands. I mean, at the time, I it's funny because I remember very vividly. It was a metal. 1991, Slayer, Megadeth, Anthrax, very metal crowd. And
I didn't get to see that tour.
What's that?
I didn't get to see a tour. I didn't see those bands till probably a couple of years later. Probably.
Yeah. This was classic thrash metal. I think
They called that tour the retirement tour, yet it wasn't.
No, this is 5 years later, and they're still playing. All these bands.
It's because the new version of Pantera saved metal.
Did it?
They're ready to hang it up, and then Pantera emerged from the underground and was pretty much the only thing out there.
Well, it's funny. I've seen Pantera twice.
Cowboys from Hell emerged, and they're like, "Why are we retiring? Let's just get the hell back out there."
Yeah. Well, I've seen Pantera twice. I saw them once in the 93, I think, and it was I think on the Vulgar Display of Power tour, and it was awesome in a club.
I saw the next tour, but yeah,
and I saw them a year ago they opened for Metallica.
I didn't get to see that.
Yeah, it was. It was cool because it's cool to hear those songs, but it was weird. I remember seeing them very vividly in a club, and now they're playing at 6 in the a summer night, so it's broad daylight out, and in a stadium where half the stadium hasn't even come in yet. So it was a weird vibe. Again, it was cool. They're good for them. But
okay. If you could be in any band, what band would be in? Since you were never really in a band, what band would you be in? If you didn't have this label, you're a different guy, you get to be in a band. What band would that be?
I don't know. I've had, again, the good fortune to either tour with some very cool bands, whether Terror. I went to Japan with Terror for their first trip there back in 2003.
Yeah.
That was very cool. They just released a new album, which is crushing, and all these years later. So I'm stoked for those guys.
Probably a different label. I had to let them go, but this happens.
We did their early, their first couple records, but this new record, and I love this, came out on Flat Spot Records. Terror has done they've worked with so many labels. It feels like every album's on a different label. But this new record is on Flat Spot, which is a sick label in its own right. But the owner of it, this guy Ricky, he was in the band Backtrack that we worked with. And he was actually just mentioned to Scott Vogel. I was like, I think it's so cool that Ricky, who runs your label now, was a teenage Bridge 9 customer. So I have letters from Ricky when he was a teenager, back in 2001. And now he's their label, which is very cool. All this stuff is very full circle.
Yeah. Well, I know you Boston guys, you're the I don't drink, I don't get high and all that, but all this time, have you ever been at a party and somebody's smoking a joint? Did you ever take a hit?
No, so not since I've been straight edge. I claimed edge when I was 18. And and have been straight edge.
Nothing, not even at like a party outside Boston.
No.
Nothing on the road.
No loopholes, nothing.
Nothing like you had a day off, you decided to train to Amsterdam with some guys, or you're right in Dutchville. No.
Yeah, no. I have a friend that, and I don't know if this is his thing now, but I remember he was vegan, except for when he was in New York City, and then he would have whatever pizza he wanted. But everywhere else he was, so that was one of his like loopholes, and I have not had anything like that.
Okay. I mean,
So, no judgment either. I mean,
I'm not judging you. I mean,
yeah.
And I wouldn't judge you if you said, well, one time.
Yeah.
Right. Me, I just quit smoking cigarettes.
Nice.
Not ready to quit weed yet. I've been
Yeah.
doing it for like 30-something years. And
Yeah.
I curbed alcohol. So I only drink on holidays, special occasions, and vacations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's been a few years now. I've been
Nice.
doing it.
That's congratulations. A lot of those things are hard to curb. So,
That's true.
Good luck with that.
Especially, it's hard to, with Murphy's Law and all that around. The party band of the
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. That's about all I got. Thank you for doing this. Finally.
Yeah, of course, Kenny. I appreciate you. And again, I think the reason why we're on here is to let people know about the book. Hopefully, people will check it out. It's called Fenway Punk.
Okay, before you go, I just want to remind you of one thing.
What's that?
Share my screen in a second. Okay. There. As you can see, who sucks? Not the Yankees.
Not this season so far.
Okay.
Doing better than Boston.
I meant to put this up. Okay, as we can see, who sucks?
Oh, you gotta pick my glasses on.
Bottom of the key. Definitely not the Yankees.
Yeah, no, for sure.
667 best in the AL. Doesn't suck. 370 sucks. 10 and 17. It's like 18 and 9. They're almost opposite, exactly almost.
Yeah.
Except the Yankees have one more win than they have losses.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, it's still only April, so there's a lot of baseball to be played.
That's true. All right. But as time goes on, the Dodgers are the new Yankees.
Yeah.
Or
the old Red Sox.
I accept it because they win another championship this year or next year. That means dynasties are back. And that means the Yankees might get another dynasty one day.
Someday.
Yeah.
Yeah. With LA, it felt like Boston was like their farm team for a little while because so many people were going from Boston to LA.
True.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thank you for doing this. And
of course, Kenny. Thank you again for the opportunity. I appreciate being on your show.
And everybody check out Sully's brand and Bridge 9 Records.
That's right. And
all your underground punk for the last and the new book. Check out.
That's right. So yeah, if you see this, grab it.
Quite an easy read.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, it's
Stone. Set it, and I'll show you all the pictures before we flipping through.
Yeah, it's the in a lot of ways the genesis story between both brands, and just a good throwback to before the Red Sox won the World Series.
Right there, that picture right there.
Yeah.
The famous Ben Affleck picture.
Yeah, some have art photos.
All right, man. Thank you for doing this.
Appreciate it, Kenny.
All right, man. And thank
All
you
right.
for all of you showing up and watching this.
Definitely.
And that's a wrap. And everybody enjoy the replay at the network.